all these rejections from the middle Bollinger Band.
Resistance we're going to need.
If you actually see here, we get a
And we'll look for a healthy higher
I
low.
would not
don't have
be
the
convinced
pullback
to
to
enter a long trade.
Hey everyone, hope you're doing well. It is Tuesday, June 19th, 6:35 p.m. Eastern. We have the bulls getting a little bit of follow through, but still struggling with their exponential resistance. And we're going to be talking about those exponentials a lot because they are beautiful and continue to give us great guidance. 12 period and 26 period. Here's the 12 period rejecting the price on the daily time frame as of right now. So I'm still trading with a short-term mindset, and I've made some small scalps, very short-term, because for me, this daily chart, what we need to change the trend is a break of the lower high pattern. And yes, we got a break of this tight pattern, but that's not a break and a change of the trend. I'm looking at the last clear level where we rejected 7,777, and I'm looking where we stand right now and saying that the odds that we make a move straight from the low in a V-shaped recovery to break the lower high pattern is not likely. And we would need news and big bull volume behind it for that to happen. So in my opinion, we're not going to see this trend change from this bounce. We're going to have to bounce and set a lower high somewhere and then pull back and form a higher low compared to 61.35 and then break the lower high pattern. If the bulls are going to change the trend, in my opinion, that's how they're going to do it, because a $1,000 move is a 16% move from where we currently stand. And I'm sure I'm not alone in saying that while the bulls have seen a little bit of nice follow through the past couple days, seeing 16% is not a likely scenario from where we stand currently. So we are forming a bit of an upper wick showing profit taking on today's candlestick. We zoom into the 4-hour time frame and can see that we've got some wicks, but there's a clear level of support, and I actually like the hourly chart better, but a 4-hour inside bar to be watching that's going to set here in an hour and 20 minutes. So we'll keep an eye on how that breaks. But the hourly time frame has a really nice support level. And when a support level is this clear like this, you know that a ton of traders are watching it. And in this current market environment, because we don't have a bunch of retail coming in, the people that are trading this space and the movement that is being caused is the vast majority, in my opinion, traders. And people are going to be watching these key levels. So if this level breaks, this double bottom, 66.70, that's going to be a level where bulls likely see some exit and bears likely jump in because there's a lack of support due to the big bull break that we saw from yesterday. So we're not really seeing the follow through, as I said in the last video yesterday, where we need to see hourly healthy consolidation and then continuation. We're seeing the consolidation. We're trading sideways. That's just fine, but we don't have the continuation yet. We saw the bulls attempt to break out. There was zero follow through behind it. And that's also another important point. If we were to break this support level and get no follow through and have a long lower wick and bulls buying the dip, that would be a potential bullish signal. So even though we broke up to the upside, the fact that we got no follow through and closed with a ton of profit taking is a signal that, we're going to be looking for the bears to remain in control. Then we held support. And so now we're just bouncing around with upper wicks of profit taking, lower wicks of bulls buying the dip. And we're still in a fairly tight range on this hourly time frame. And you can see we have hourly inside bars forming as well as those 4-hour inside bar. So definitely could see another leg up. Look at the exponential support. The 12 period on the hourly time frame, Bitcoin held it 4 candlesticks in a row. Then the bulls showed up, couldn't see any follow through, and now here we are right at these exponential supports again. So it was a really nice guide on Bitcoin. It was a great guide on Ethereum as well. By the way, changed IOTA. IOTA got the boot, and Binance is now going to be in every other day video. Took a member vote, so Binance today. So anyways, we have the tight range to be watching, and the bulls can absolutely see another leg up. I'm just cautious. And again, every time we see another leg up, in my opinion, we're closer to setting the daily lower high compared to the 77.77 level that we are keeping an eye on. Looking at the weekly time frame just to see how things stand, we can see that even if we set a bounce on the weekly time frame, we're not changing the trend until 10,000 breaks, 9,948. So it's even longer on the weekly time frame, but it's the same scenario. If we see a bounce and we make a move up, we're going to have to set a higher low and then break the lower highs, in my opinion, because we're not just going to break the lower highs right from here. So a lot of people are still looking for another leg down. We could absolutely see another leg down. We have to keep our game plans with that as a possibility and a scenario. Remember back when we bounced off 7,000, we saw a significant move of 10%, and people were not looking for, another huge drop of a couple $1,000s, but that is an entirely possible scenario as it is staying within the trend, favoring the bears. So if we break bullish, we're looking for a lower high compared to 77.77. If we break down bearish, we have a few support levels to be watching. And of course, the most important level is the low, 61.35. Ethereum. Oh, I also want to talk about the pump clock that we've had recently. Posted a chart on Twitter, and this was discovered by a member, I should say, observed by a member a couple days ago. And just watching it play out now, there's definitely validity to it. But it was right at around noon Eastern. We see these pumps where we had one here with the dump and then a significant bounce. That's not too notable. But then you go to the next day, and here it is again. It's about 12:15 p.m. Eastern. So that was another one. We had another one there, and these are all occurring at the same time. And here was another one at the same time. 4 out of 5 days in a row, there was a significant bull move at this time. One day there was not. And I certainly took note of this because all these moves were happening. That's my nap time. And I take a nap every day. We'll talk about that at the end of the video. But it was notable because I was missing some of this action. And of course, today I stay up and don't take a nap just in case. And I was prepared with an order in case we saw some bull action show up. But I didn't enter any trade because nothing happened. So it's patterns that are there periodically, but who knows, maybe it was a lot of people noticing was a potential reason. And it wasn't just the one member noticing. I comments on the YouTube videos, other people were spotting this as well. But maybe it's a lot of people noticing. As we know, when patterns are discovered and a lot of people use them, they're not going to continue to work and play out. That's not how the market works. The market is smarter than that. But nothing going on today in terms of that pump clock. So we'll keep an eye on it for the next couple of days, and if it fades away, then we'll have to scout for new patterns. So Ethereum on the daily time frame is more significantly above its 12-period exponential resistance. We can see we had the low, the high of the bounce, got very tight. We did see bullish continuation. Both names, Bitcoin and Ethereum, are on the verge of a daily bull MACD cross. But again, looking back, we just had one that saw no follow through. So MACD is a confirmation indicator for me. It's the bottom of the totem pole in terms of indicators I use. It's RSI, volume, price action, and MACD is down towards the bottom in terms of weight that I put into it. So noting that it's going to be a potential bull cross, but also noting that that didn't mean anything last time. So for the resistance to break here to change the trend on the daily time frame, I'm looking at 627, 628 to round. So 628 from where we stand in the 530s is well over 10%. That's over 15%. So similar to Bitcoin, around the 16% range. So the odds that we see a move just to break that lower high is not likely. I am looking for a lower high compared to that level, and I am looking for the bulls to change the trend. Same thing. We need the higher low and then the break of the lower highs. It requires a lot less of a percentage move to see that happen than if we were to come right off the low, which was a lower low, and break that trend. So the 4-hour time frame here, inside bar, let's see if it's forming. Not exactly an inside bar by 28 cents, 23 cents, but when it's that close, I often use it as an inside bar. The hourly time frame showing the tightening range. So the low of consolidation, the high of the breakout. This is our channel that we're currently in, and it did get a little bit tighter. So if we wanted to zoom into the 15-minute time frame, we could see that we have a resistance level up here at 538.23, a higher low of support here at 529.90. So let's say I were going to use some stop levels, and I was in a trade right now, which I'm not. I'm all cash. And if I were going to be in a trade, and let's say I wanted to get out if 528.12 were to break, because that's the low of consolidation, I could zoom in and put my stop below this level of 529.90, because I could assume that if that level breaks, we're likely going to see the support level break. And if I did not want to wait until this support level breaks, when a lot of other stop levels trigger and I get slippage, that's sometimes a way to skip the line, so to speak, to put my order before. And I do that sometimes. I think I pointed out in a recent Ethereum video where we had a quadruple top on the hourly time frame of 502. So that wasn't the clear bull break. That was a bull break, but 507 was the clear bull break. And I assumed that if 502 broke, 507 would go with it. So I made an entry on 502 to skip the potential stop buy orders that were going to trigger and cause me slippage and a worse fill. So there are oftentimes tight levels that you can get a little bit of a jump start, so to speak, on where your orders trigger. So today for Ethereum, just very short-term trades that I made. Like I said, there was an inside or equilibrium here on the 5-minute time frame, high, low, little double top. And this actually wasn't the one I played. I played the previous one, but very similar. So high, low, lower high, real tight, and then the break of the lower highs here, 527.29. I made an entry, and I took my profit pretty quickly. Again, just trying to lock in some gains on the day. Canadian MJ was on fire again today. WEED going for all-time highs. Just barely missed, but That's where my attention was. So again, while we're in a downtrend on the daily time frame, I lock in the bull profit while we have it, and I patiently wait for more clarity. And yes, I left some money on the table. I could have held it for a bit longer and gotten more, but again, it all depends on what you're doing, and I was focused on other things at that time. So happy with my small gain, moved on from there. So tight range on the hourly as well, and I think this is the same range that I highlighted in the video. Actually, no, I take that back. That range from yesterday, clear bull break. So that was a nice range to be watching. So when I recorded the video yesterday, I said, this is the overnight range to be watching where we have our high and our low of consolidation, and we'll see how we break. We just traded sideways and got the bull break. Well, here's some further sideways trading. So again, there is a possibility that we do see a bull break and the bulls are not done here on the daily time frame. If that's the case, again, I'll play it again. I'll play it short term. I'll lock in my profit. Am I leaving gains on the table than if I just bought down near the low and held it for 5 days? Absolutely. But by not doing that, I'm being more protective. I'm being in complete control of my stack, and I am not going to give anything back if this is indeed a lower high and we drop back down into support levels, into the low $500 range or the upper $400 range. EOS USD had a more significant bounce initially, and now it's just playing the laggard where other names are catching up. And that's what Ethereum did today. Ethereum saw significant buying. That's actually a point before I get into EOS. So what we saw with Bitcoin on that big spike that happened at pump o'clock, Bitcoin was the leader, and it broke the high of its bounce on the daily time frame before anybody else did. When I did the video, Ethereum, Litecoin, BCH, none of them had broken to a higher high compared to their previous bounce highs. Bitcoin had. So what that tells me is the more likely scenario is that that pump is originating in Bitcoin. Bitcoin is seeing its market buy orders push that price up, and then the other names by arbitrage and by bots are being dragged with it, just not as significantly. And then last night, when Ethereum was breaking out, it was very clear that the volume was concentrated on Ethereum, and it wasn't necessarily, any other coin and correlation that was causing the Ethereum rise. So you can pick out little differences in how these coins compare to each other, saying, where is the volume concentrated? Because just because Ethereum's going up, that doesn't mean that, Ethereum is the reason people are going up. Yes, people are buying it in response to what the other coins are doing, but a lot of the time it is bots that are buying it to keep the prices correlated to each other. So you can look for clues in the positioning with how they are, and it was very clear that Ethereum was playing catch up today, whereas, like I said, Bitcoin on the daily time frame broke the high of its bounce yesterday, and Ethereum did not. And it took to this morning for Ethereum to then catch up and say, all right, Bitcoin, I see you breaking the high. I'm going to do that as well. So EOS had a stronger bounce initially, and now it's trading more flat while the other names are catching up to the size of its bounce and now exceeding it a little bit. So it's still a very tight range on the daily time frame, a little bit of choppy action, certainly not as favorable for clarity as the other names are. And we have a double low down here as well. So this is a key support level that I would be watching. 10.10 and 10.12, so I'll call that a double bottom. We broke the lower high pattern on the hourly. We formed another higher low of 10.44, and the bulls are trying to see a clear break of this resistance, a double top at 10.90. So the tight range on the 4-hour time frame, an inside bar here as well, and we've been within this range for a while now, but it's 10.44 to 10.90 is the range to be watching. And the bulls are trying to get to the high of their daily bounce, and if we do break this double top, that's where we will be headed. So overall, the weekly time frame, certainly the most bullish out of the names that we're watching because it is a higher low, higher high pattern. We're just looking for where the higher low on the weekly is going to be set. And to form a higher low on the weekly time frame, we have to change the trend on the daily chart. And that will give us confidence that our weekly higher low has been set. So we're still within this tight range. We haven't made our bull break yet. And if we do not make that bull break, then it will certainly be a sign that we are not forming our weekly higher low yet. So step number one to give us confidence that our weekly higher low might be in, have to break 1164, the top of this bounce. So Binance is a standout for a very nice uptrend, which certainly is a foreign word these days in a lot of longer term timeframes, at least on daily charts. So here's the weekly chart where we have an inside bar and we did get a double top. It's actually more like, well, it's a double top here the past 2 weeks, 1720. But the daily chart is showing a tightening range, still favoring the bulls. And this is a cup and handle setup. The psychology is there. And, if you're looking at a textbook, someone might argue, well, this isn't a round enough bottom to be called a cup and handle pattern. I don't care about textbook definitions. I don't care about exacts. Technical analysis is not exact. The psychology of the pattern states a bullish uptrend, It's a continuation pattern. Usually, I like it as a continuation pattern the most. We have the resistance. We see consolidation. It's rounded enough for me. We head back up to resistance. We set a lower high on the right side, unable to break the left side. That leads to profit taking and consolidation. This is the handle of the cup, and we look for the breakout. So I'm watching for a breakout. If we break 1611, a little double low the last 2 days, that tells us we're not done consolidating, and maybe that will decrease the odds. Shouldn't say maybe, that will decrease the odds that it is a cup and handle pattern if that support breaks. If we just keep trading sideways here, and the handle can have a slight downward slope as well, but if we just keep trading sideways, there is the potential for a bull break and continuation. 1720 and 1748 are the two resistance levels to be watching, and if we get over those levels, there's not much until the all-time highs, 23.23. So you better believe there's a lot of bulls watching these levels, and they will be looking for some follow-through if it breaks because of the lack of resistance afterwards. It's just a lot of psychological resistance. So 18, 19, and then 1945 would be the next price level. So keep an eye on BNB. We know it's bullish. We know it's strong. Very healthy consolidation, very healthy 4-hour time frame. There's your potential little handle. You can draw the trend lines if you wanted to. This is how I would draw. That's actually a nice looking handle. That's how I would draw them, making sure there's no closes above or below. And this should see a break, either again, the break of the double low or a break to a higher high. That should probably happen sometime in the next 36 hours or so. So again, there's our low of consolidation and our 1720 little double top. Let's see if the bulls can turn things around. Looking pretty good for BNB. That's definitely where my attention would be as a day trader, short-term trader. That's one of the better setups that we're looking at. So it's nice to have something that's not extremely tick for tick correlated with all these other names. And that's the great thing about the stock market where, yes, there's tons of correlation, but there's always plays. I can always find an oversold bounce or a blue sky breakout in the stock world. That's not always the case for crypto. So that's what we got. Let's talk about naps. So I changed my life in terms of productivity and being able to work longer hours, get more done in a day with naps. So I generally wake up with the sun, and that's something that my body just started doing when I was road tripping and camping because you're forced to. You go, you wake up with the sun, and if you're by yourself for 7 months driving around the country and it gets dark at night, you're not hanging out at night. You're going to bed as soon as it gets dark. So I was going to bed at 8 o'clock sometimes, 9 o'clock, and waking up at 5 or 6, depending on the sun and where I was at. But what that does is when it wakes me up so early, by the time I get to the end of the day, I lose a lot of energy and I lose a lot of focus and productivity. But a nap, if I had life skills, if it's charting and organic farming, hopping on rocks and rivers, breaking up dog fights, and napping. So not everybody has the same sleep schedule. Not everybody can nap. Not everybody can nap during the day because they work, whatever. But what I want to say is if you can find the time to nap and if you can practice, it is something that it's a skill that you can get better at. But I'm able to just lay down and be asleep in less than 10 minutes, and my body will wake me up in 20 minutes every time. I don't set an alarm when I nap, and I nap probably 6 out of 7 days a week. Granted, on the days that you don't nap, you do feel it towards the end of the day, but on the days that I do nap, I am able to wake up refreshed and just bang out the second half of the day with as much vigor and intensity and productivity as the first half of the day. And honestly, I really picked up that routine as a daily routine starting the Chart Guys 3 years ago, and I couldn't have done half as much of the work or the videos or all that if I were not napping. So give it a shot if you're able to. And again, you can train yourself. And if you set an alarm after 20 minutes of a nap, after a certain period of time, your body will then just wake up on its own in that period of time. And there's definitely a fine line where if you go over a certain period of time, if you nap for an hour, you may wake up groggy. The short nap doesn't allow your sleep cycle to get in towards the REM sleep cycle and the deeper sleeps that are harder to arise from. So not for everybody, but if you have the luxury of being able to take a siesta during the day, South America and Central America, they're on to something with this siesta thing. I appreciate you watching. We'll be back tomorrow. We'll see if we get follow through. It's certainly still a setup on these names that could see follow through, sideways hourly trading, and very clear support levels. As long as those hold, bulls are just fine in the short term. So thanks again. We'll see you soon.